Welcome everyone to INSEAD's INSEAD digital platform, our in the case approach today. Let me give you a quick etiquette of our webinar. You're going to stay mute during the webinar. Your video will also remain off. The chat feature will also be closed. We have a total of 60 minutes for a conversation with our partner. Even though you will not be able to use the chat feature, you can use the question and answers tab on your Zoom to suggest questions for the speakers. You can also look at what questions other people have asked. You can vote them up so that we can find the most relevant and interesting questions from you to discuss at the end of the webinar. The webinar will be recorded for a total of 60 minutes, 45 minutes for our discussion, and 15 minutes for the Q&A part of the session. If you have any issues on the technical side, please email digital@insead.edu. Without further ado, I'm going to pass the word to my colleague, Karel Cool, who's going to start the webinar. All yours, Karel.
Thanks, Atalay, and welcome also from my side to the In the Case webinar from Digital at INSEAD. As you know, the webinar series provides an opportunity to do a deep dive on some of the recent cases that we develop, and to also interact with the protagonists. So I think we're particularly fortunate with EcoVadis. Not only does it have a very important technical and digital dimension, it also intersects with the other series that we're running, which is called the INSEAD Business Sustainability Series from the hub in San Francisco. It's a 5-part series, and you see it on the screen right now. It's the third one. It's the clinic on EcoVadis. I know that some of you have been able to participate in the first 2, and thank you for that, and we hope you continue. And so we're going to start the clinic right away. But I would like to say that we got a big cherry on the cake today, or on the case today. EcoVadis has just become a unicorn. And so I would really like to welcome the 2 protagonists, the 2 co-founders. Yes, absolutely. Congratulations on that one. Pierre-François and Frédéric, who are coming in view right now. So number 1, congratulations. So number 2, I should do proper introductions, of course. Pierre-François is an alumnus from 99. And Frédéric is an adopted alumnus. So once you become a unicorn, we adopt you. Okay, so no, that's what we do. So we got lots to learn, and in the tradition of the In the Case webinars, I'll give an opportunity for Pierre-François and Frédéric to give an overview of the company, and then we're going to come in with questions. All to you.
Thanks, Karel and Atalay, and yeah, very glad to be here. And indeed, after sitting through so many of these case study in class, I never thought that one day we could be a subject of one. But I'm especially glad that it's not because we did something really corrupt, or it's not because we crashed the company to the ground in a way so terrible that it would justify academic interest. So something a bit more positive. But no, really happy to be with you today and share a bit of the EcoVadis story, and especially as INSEAD has been so important in the history of EcoVadis, from day one, with helping us with ideas, inspiration, having a Professor Luc van der Sandhoff on our scientific board, working with many alumni as first customers. So really glad to give back today.
Thank you.
So yeah, maybe a quick intro in a few minutes on the on history of the business concept. So we started a while ago when ESG was not the topic that it is today, or where sustainability was not that high on the agenda. And with Fred, what we saw at that time was that all the large corporates, or some of the large corporates, were starting to bombard their suppliers all over the world with questionnaires and audits and basically questions on environmental, social, human rights, governance topics. And this was creating a huge duplication of efforts, and it was painful for all the buyers. Of course, it was even more painful for all these companies who had to respond to so many requests that they were spending more time, answering questions of their customers on sustainability and ESG than actually working on fixing the problems. So we thought that we could help do this in a bit more elegant way by creating on the next slide, by creating a standard for business sustainability rating, creating the metric that will be recognized by industries, and by creating the cloud platform to connect all those supply chains and allow companies on the right to respond once, to be rated, to share with different customers, to create a network a bit like the LinkedIn network, where you have your profile, but you can then share your profile with different group of friends. And for all those companies that were getting rated on the platform, that was also the possibility to get benchmarks and to compare what they were doing on environmental, social, and governance. So that was the power of scores, and in MBAs at INSEAD, we know how powerful scoring tools like GMAT are, or business school rankings, and how business school rankings are driving behavior of business schools and students in this particular case. So by creating a universal business sustainability score, we thought we could also drive behavior of companies. And we did this, creating a methodology on the next slide, which was covering and is still covering today, 4 big topics: environmental performance, including climate and water and diversity, labor and human rights, with topics or subtopics like living wages, which is a hot topic today, ethics, of course, and a specific focus on sustainable procurement. And special shout out to Sylvain Guilloton, which is an alumni also from 3 years 3 years after me, that we identified through the INSEAD alumni book, and who joined us day one as the first employee to create the methodology, and is still today our chief ratings officer, has been creating this framework and developing it, and overseeing today a team of 500 sustainability analysts all over the world. So all this is then published in the form of a digital platform. If you go to the next slide, and Fred, you want to?
Yeah. So the output, clearly, we provide the market with a scorecard around those pillars, related to sustainability. It's done on a very industrialized manner, mixing technology and expertise. We do this really through the software. And if we move to the next slide, the story of EcoVadis again started 2007, have been growing, I should say, exponentially in the last few years. It was a fairly slow start due to the maturity of the market overall, but then growing really fast. Today, we have a two-sided business model with corporation on one side, suppliers or rated companies on the other side. We have around 1,000 corporation, about 200,000 rating already, 100,000 customer on the rated side, and we are growing at a pace of adding around 2,300 customers every month in 185 countries. So it's really global and cover all type of industries. And if we move to the next slide, this is a very important part of EcoVadis. We are a purpose-led business. Our purpose is to drive all companies towards sustainability, and the idea was really to leverage on the power of procurement to reach the widest audience globally. So procurement are using the scoring to really understand what is the risk in their supply chain, but also to enhance improvements among their supplier base, and in particular with the strategic suppliers, that have a long way to go to improve their practices in sustainability.
No, and on this topic, we believe that value chain and supply chain play a very important role in the transformation that our societies and economies need to see. I was in New York last week for Climate Week. It was also the UN meeting where we're celebrating. I don't know if it's the word. We're halfway through the SDGs. We're halfway through the Sustainable Development Goals with only 7 years to go, and we are very far from being on track to reach those targets. Including on climate. And I think that if we really want to see the change, or for the change to happen, we need a couple of things. We need more regulations, for example, price on carbon, and all these regulations start to happen, too slow, but they start to happen. But this is not going to be enough. We need breakthrough innovations, new materials, energy, cars, building materials, and so on. And this is happening. There's a lot of money investing in climate tech and in sustainable tech, but this is not going to be enough. The last thing we need to see is a massive shift in the purchasing behavior of both consumers and B2B. And where EcoVadis is playing is helping to drive this massive shift in the purchasing behavior in B2B and companies. And one metric which is very important for us is the spend, the volume of purchased goods and services we influence every year through our ratings. And last year, it was $2.5 trillion. The 1,000 large enterprise we support, they are buying much more than that, but we're influencing, roughly $2.7 trillion, which is a mind-blowing number.
Thank you. Great introduction. So probably can start with firing some questions at you guys. Okay, Atalay, will you start?
Sure, with pleasure. So the start in 2007 is actually a big challenge, and we know it from first-hand experience in academia, especially at INSEAD. We started doing research on sustainability much long ago, but it was always a niche, even as an academic concept. Businesses really didn't want to hear too much about, how can I be more sustainable? So what inspired you to take this strong position so early, much before everyone? I think that's a very important question for everyone to hear, because you open up a path that didn't exist before, and you came so strong to become a unicorn today.
So now that's interesting, because when we were thinking about this project, this concept back in 2006, even before, both of us, Pierre-François and I, we were really looking for doing something around sustainability. I mean, we're both entrepreneurs. I mean, this is my 5th company, and we were looking for something that would change the world. And as an entrepreneur, the most difficult part is really to choose the project where sky is the limit. At that time, it was the very beginning, but we were convinced that it was dearly needed, in the future. And of course, nobody thought that we could become an unicorn at that time. And actually, the term didn't even exist. I think it started in 2013. So we could not even dream of this. But what we were at that time, and we're still dreaming, is how much impact this project will have. That was the objective that we set when we started.
No, and the role of entrepreneurs is to connect the dots, and there were a couple of dots we saw and made sense to us. You are talking about academic research. One of the dots was a paper which was published by a professor at the HEC Business School. They did a survey on sustainable procurement, interviewing companies, asking them, what is missing, and the number one thing which was missing was metrics or KPIs. And then we thought, okay, so maybe we need to create the metric for sustainable procurement. It was a very small research, but it was very very important. Other elements were talking to chief procurement officers and understanding that there was a way to combine sustainability performance in supply chain with better economic performance and better procurement performance. And so suddenly it was okay. If we're able to create this data on sustainable supply chain, that can also be used not only to do good, but to to drive performance for businesses, and so thanks to our past experience, we're able connect the dots and see something which appeared quite obvious for us. And but I realized that it was not obvious for everyone. Or luckily for us, it was not obvious for everyone at that stage.
Very good. Yeah.
Thank you.
You guys were also pretty bold right from the start. Looking at researching you and talking to you guys, you made decisions right off the bat at the very beginning to say this is going to be a global business. We got to invest in technology that allows global scale. Organizationally, we need to be setting ourselves up to achieve this particular goal. 2007, with nothing in your hands. Why did you become so bold or have such a view right there?
But Karel, I would not say nothing in our hands, because we've been working for quite a while before, and actually with a very international background, both of us. And when you think about this original idea was to bring, you know, the standard in the rating so that what can be measured can be managed. It has to be global if you want to become a standard. And if you want to leverage on procurement, I mean, by definition, supply chain are global, and those companies all over the world, they are also working with corporations that are everywhere in Europe or in the US. So from day one, we thought that it was extremely important to organize everything around an international, you know, concept. Just as an anecdote, even Pierre-François and I were speaking English in the Paris office to make sure that we could hire foreigner, you know, to grow the team internationally from the very beginning. It was probably Franglish rather than English, but it works because the employee number 3 after Sylvain, you know, we started to hire some foreigner that helped us to really gear the team to get the talent to be able to, you know, reach the global marketplace. And also, the idea was to go very quickly to the US. In previous businesses, we thought that the US market was really predominant. For once, in sustainability, Europe was ahead. And it gave us a very big opportunity to develop, you know, this concept in the United States before anyone start working on this. And yeah, so that's what we do. We went there very, very quickly early in the development of the company.
So did this help in the subsequent success of the company? This
No,
global thinking early on.
Well, technology, of course, but on this global aspect, you know, being like global by design, of course, it made a huge difference. And so I remember in the first couple of weeks, you know, we are thinking about this methodology framework, you know, where we're going to design our methodology. And we made the choice to align it with, you know, global emerging standards, not with the European ones, not with French ones, and then we built on this. And then, of course, you know, it made it much easier once we had to expand in other countries, or when we, you know, like the core team, you know, when we were like 15 people, was probably, you know, 8 nationalities. And of course, when we scaled, you know, we had, you know, American, English, Chinese, you know, German, you know, team members were able to help expand in other countries. So,
and Pierre, I would say
that's foundation was very important for the later stages.
Yeah, and the technology helped a lot on this, because we really designed a platform where the entire rating process was anchored, and it was on a SaaS mode, you know. And again, EcoVadis is a technology company. Primary customer of the technology is EcoVadis itself. And we use this platform to be able to have people spread all over the world, but working around the same process, same methodology, same tool. And that really helps to grow in a nimble manner in many different places.
Maybe jumping in on that point here, today AI is all over the place. What struck me is that when you guys started, AI was already very much driving this company. Can you say a little bit more about this? Because we're in a digital, yeah.
Yeah, Karel, I would not say that when we started AI drove the company at that time, because we started AI more in around 2014, really, the first bit of AI. We were using technology, statistic, but not really AI until 2014. What we find in 2014 is that we already had so many data in the organization that it was really fast or quick for us to fine-tune the neural networks at that time, because we had data sets that were verified by human that we could use for this cumbersome fine-tuning process. Today, it's a complete different world. You don't even need to fine-tune them. But during the past, let's say for the past 8 years, we've been using the technology through our data, to make sure that every day that passes, this AI bricks is improving. And it's part of our process. It's part of our process in several respects to increase the reliability of our rating, but also to fetch and sort data points that are coming from all over the world in order to embed this into part of the rating process, so that we get additional information on top of all the information that we are collecting from the companies that we are assessing.
Just tagging on a little bit on this. So AI is another virtue in itself, but why is this helping your clients? Okay.
Okay. It's helping us to produce a better rating at scale. Now, I would not say yet that it's helping directly our client, but of course, if we are able to produce this rating with a high level of reliability and at scale, indirectly, it really helps our clients. But today, we really use it for our processes. I give you one very concrete example. We use this technology to be able to identify, data points in a large amount of evidences of documents that are handed over to us from either the companies that we are assessing or document that we are harvesting from public domain.
Very good. Yeah.
Another use case is because indeed we use it to improve the efficiency of our processes, but we're also using it to create new product that would not exist without AI. So last year we launched a product called IQ, which is like a very, very scalable version of our ratings, where you can, in a few seconds, get the first snapshot of the, sustainability risk level of hundreds of thousands of companies. And we are using AI for this to automatically scan all the websites of millions of companies and extract, all the information signals we can find on their potential commitments or on controversies. So that's a very scalable, very high volume or high level of coverage or real time type of information that will not be possible with the humans.
Thank you. This is very helpful. I think the issue of global thinking from the get-go, technology thinking and integration as you grow is very insightful for the people listening to us. But probably some of the entrepreneurs in the audience, especially as we are more and more in a data age, in a digital age, are thinking about what kind of decisions that you have taken earlier on in the journey, be that related to the scope, methodology, technology use, and so on, that were fundamental or that were essential for the current success. So how should they think about, what scope, what methodology, or what technology to use to grow a business at this scale?
I think one decision which was quite fundamental was we started quite early in the market. And, we were a bit ahead of the market. When you start a business, you're always a bit late or a bit ahead. And in our case, we're probably a couple of years ahead. And therefore, we decided to have a, funding strategy and a growth strategy to, be able to go for a long time without spending much money and without raising any capital in this case. We didn't raise capital before year 9, when we were already a sizable business. And we had to optimize everything at EcoVadis to be basically profitable from day one. And, you were seeing the numbers, it was pretty low numbers in terms of revenue. So this very how to say, being very careful about costs and being very careful about remaining focused on one topic, without trying to pivot and capture any other opportunity that was passing by.
And they were
made a huge difference. It made a huge difference in terms of the overall cost structure of the business. So today, in the past 2 years, the markets have shifted, and this type of approach is becoming very popular again. This made a very big difference in terms of the capability to keep control of the business. We've been raising a very large amount of funding, but we did so when we're already profitable and we're already sizable business. So totally different type of story. And I think as we enter 2023 or soon 2024, and the financial markets are more difficult for entrepreneurs with seed and Series A at record low levels, I think entrepreneurs should not see this as hurdle rather than opportunity. To design a business that will be more bootstrapped and be able to be in a much stronger position. When things will accelerate.
So here again, we learned from the past, as you can imagine. But I'll echo what you said, Pierre, on the fact that we needed to choose our battles and say no at many opportunities that were diverting us from our core, business model. And I think that one of the very important decision that we took, and we stay really firm on this, was to say that this is going to be the global methodological framework. We work with our customer to enhance it, but we've always pushed back on customer that wanted really to have something so customized at the end that it would not be embedded into the standards, or customers that wanted only to address, for instance, the environmental parts and not the social part. And we really stay firm on saying, no, it's overall CSR rating, and we cover the entire subject. And this has served us greatly afterward.
Very good. Every entrepreneur, of course, encounters difficulties. That's just the way it is. Probably you encountered some very nasty ones. I don't know if I can say it like that. But so what kind of nasty surprises did you get, and how did you deal with it or overcome them? So that people who are thinking about this, they say, oh, they had it. Okay.
I would not say nasty. I would not go that far, but I think we can share this one. We are in small committee here, but when we approach the US market and find out that the rating scale in the US was very different than what is happening in Europe, when you have 70% in the US, you are really at the very, very low end of the performance, whereas in Europe, you are at the top end in a way, at school and everywhere. It's completely different scale. So we find out that this was the case, and we were already a few years in the process. So that was a bit of a challenge. So we added, we had to, without changing the scoring scale, we had to add the percentile concept to our product, to our scorecard, which helped us tackle this challenge. But that was one of them. Let's put it this way.
All right, very good.
And another bad surprise and pretty structural was that nobody wanted to pay for sustainability. Yes, so when we started, we went to meet with large Fortune 500 companies. We were the best in the world sustainability. We had glossy sustainability report with 50 pages, and we introduced what we are doing, and we're saying, certainly you will be you'll be able to find a $100,000 or $500,000 budget for that. And they told us, no, that's the entire sustainability budget for the global 500 company. So that was a bit of a challenge, and so we started with a business model where we were charging a small fee for those companies, and then we were charging them tokens, a couple of €100 for every supplier they wanted to see rated. it worked better, but then they told us even a couple of €100 per supplier, you know, if we can do it for, you know, we can do it for 1,000, that will be 100,000, but we're not going to do it for 10,000, that would be 1,000,000. You know, there was a ceiling to what they were ready to pay, and still today. So we had to pivot, and we had to change the business model to spread the cost over the entire value chain. So, you know, we'll charge a small fee to the large company, and we'll charge an even smaller fee to all the, you know, suppliers in their supply chain. And all this was subscription. It started to compound, but they were the big, you know, they were the big challenge in getting budgets for this. It's changing a bit, you know. Now it's you know, it's a bit more, and this challenge ultimately turned into a competitive mode, because we're able to create a large network where we're charging all the participants a very, you know, very low fee. We're talking about a couple of €1,000 per company, and this makes it very difficult for competition, you know, because we design everything to be able to produce data in a very cost efficient way and to have a high volume, you know, high volume type of business. And but so don't get depressed or discouraged when your customers telling you, okay, that's a great idea, but I have no money for that. So.
Probably mean you are among the first one to implement the idea. Yeah,
very good. Maybe just quickly, you already talked briefly about it. Getting to the US market is, of course, such an important target for so many companies, including yours. That was not a walk in the park, from what I understand.
No, it wasn't. And actually, we both moved to the US to develop the business over there. We had this. You know, this first challenge on the scoring side, but more importantly, I think, you know, the success of the company is as always around people, and selecting the right person in the US when you are coming from Europe is a real challenge, and we were no exception. We had super hard time to attract, to assess, and to retain top talents. It took us probably almost 2 years to find the right way of doing so, to learn that everything is very different, as you can imagine, but we've lived in Asia for many years, so we knew that things were different, but in the US, it was even more different than what we expect. And yes, so a couple of challenges around finding the right talent and thinking at the scale of the country. When you are coming from Europe, you don't always have the perception, you know, of how big is the US market and what are the investment you need to do in order to be successful over there. And if you come with your European mind, it doesn't always work. You really need to adapt.
Thank you.
Thank you. So one question Karel and I have been, you know, talking about links to potentially what our viewers would call the elephant in the room. If you're setting up, if you're planning to create a standard, and then sustainability movement takes off, you realize that many other big players in the rating space are actually already, you know, building skills in this space. At the same time, you see regulations coming up. You know, January 2024 is a big day for the European Union, especially. CSRD is out there, ESRS already in play. So what do these mean for an organization like EcoVadis? You know, you set the standard, amazing job, but what is the future awaiting on these grounds?
Well, maybe one word, and I know Pierre, you have probably a lot of ideas on this as you are more on the market side, but the companies you are referring to are mainly working for the listed company. They are assessing listing company. They are in the public market. They are not always very software driven. In EcoVadis, everything is around the software. It's a real true software company, and we've been able to engage with hundreds of thousands of companies around the world thanks to the software, but also because we needed to engage with them in the sense that those companies being private, they have no obligation whatsoever to publish any kind of information. And of course, when you're trying to assess a company, you want to engage with this organization to get information data point from them, but you also want to be able to collect other data information from outside. And those agencies that are specialized on listing companies, they are primarily collecting data from what is available, as they have compulsory, requirements, legal requirement to publish information. So it's a very different business, and we already have a network of customers, that is quite sizable, and a standard that is recognized. It's not easy to establish trust, around the brand, around the standard, and we don't see them coming today, but maybe they will tomorrow, maybe. By that time, I hope the network will continue to grow on our side. And yeah.
Thank you.
And on the regulations, so we've been in the space for 15 years, and we clearly see a big shift. There is a tsunami of regulations coming. Much more, ESG or sustainability or climate-related regulations in the next, plan in the next 2 years than what we saw in the first 15. And generally, what was voluntary is becoming mandatory. So all these sustainability initiative of large corporates that were launched because they wanted to protect their brands, they wanted to differentiate, they wanted to ensure resilience in their operations and supply chain, is now becoming more, mandatory. So what does it mean? It's and what does it mean for us? So generally, it's a good thing because it means tens of thousands of businesses that were doing nothing now will be forced to do something. It also means that many of those businesses, they will want just to tick the box. You have many businesses, they will need to do it because they need to comply with regulations rather than because they see it as a competitive advantage or a risk management. So we are developing solutions and products and new entry-level solutions that are adapted to this first basically all the companies who are just starting on this journey because they need to cope with the regulations. But we still believe that the leaders, they are not just going to be complying with regulation. They will want to do better than their competitors because that's a way to have better performing supply chain. That's a way to attract talent. That's a way to attract customers. So the ratings we provide, which are like a 0 to 100 scale, we are still convinced that companies will fight and will strive to be gold and silver and platinum because they will want to do more than the basics. But it's there we also see a big risk that this tsunami of regulation will be a real distraction for companies. That in the next 2 years, a lot of companies will be so focused on the regulatory compliance that they will forget the end game, and the end game is really to transform decarbonize operations and not just be compliant.
Very good.
Thank you, Pierre-François. I mean, this is something we often a question or a topic that we often come across when we do our sustainability program with Karel at INSEAD. There's a need for a jump from perceiving sustainability to be a compliance issue and to rather think of it as an opportunity or a value creation agency. I think the point you're making, in terms of the distinction from a regulatory approach to this market-driven approach is exactly that, right? So this is for companies who want to make a change or find an opportunity rather than for companies that look for compliance grounds. Am I correct in that interpretation?
Yes, no, you're right. And to give you a very concrete example of the way companies are using our ratings, global 500 companies like L'Oréal or General Motors or Johnson & Johnson, they are saying, if you want to do business with us, you need to have a minimum EcoVadis score of X. It's like the compliance level. But they're also saying, part of the RFP and the business, award process, we will use the EcoVadis score as the evaluation and the weighting criteria. So if you are gold and all your competitors are bronze, everything else being equal, you will get the business. So it's both the, of course you need to meet minimum standards, but if you are better than the peers, this would be factored in.
Yeah, and Pierre-François is referring, to our EcoVadis medal that come with the score, as you can imagine, and many companies are communicating around those medals.
We're seeing that there are, thank you. We're seeing that there are many questions in the Q&A box. So, Atalay, do you want to maybe go to the,
And Karel, if I may, just to add on the regulation side, and again, it's pretty new. It's happening pretty fast. What we also see, at least in Europe right now, but also in California, there will be more scrutiny on against potential greenwashing around what companies are communicating or what they are doing. So the tick the box approach will maybe not last forever if you think that the overall trend will be to drive impact, and driving impact is certainly not just a tick the box exercise, as you can imagine. So yeah, if you want, or if they want to be future proof, I think it's a very important factor to keep in mind, because it's going to be strengthened in the future against greenwashing.
Yeah, very good. So we had a question on purpose driven, but maybe this is going to come up in the Q&A. Atalay, I think you had an interesting question for people in the audience. You want to get to that one, the last but one?
So the audience, I would say, many of the people in the audience are looking for opportunities in the business sphere too. I think that's what we can assume, looking at the portfolio of people in the group. So can you share any quick best practices with them, again, one more time, in terms of finding that space in the sustainability sphere? What would be a quick recommendation that you can give them before we move on to the Q&A?
For any type of business, want to start on this sustainability journey?
Yeah, for an entrepreneur to start on the sustainability.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For an entrepreneur, I will say, number one, cover the basics. But depends on what company you're starting. It can be industrial, it can be a consulting, it can be a software, but you want to make sure you have the basic, CSR practices in place. It's much easier to do when you're small than when you're big. It's like quality management system. So start early, and the second one is look at what your customers or your target customers are expecting in terms of sustainability. What's amazing today that everything is public. You can just browse the sustainability reports of your target customers, and you will see CEOs saying, okay, we have a big change with this, and we've committed to go zero plastic on this, and if you can help fix any of this problem, you have a very easy entry point in those companies, and we need more. We need more entrepreneurs solving climate problems, biodiversity problems, and it's becoming very competitive, compared to what it was a couple of years ago when there was no one doing it and no money. Now it's a bit the opposite, but if you focus on a specific niche, and a single category, single problem, and think of being a global leader in this specific category, I think there is still a lot of appetite for investors and or companies like EcoVadis. One of the strategy of EcoVadis, now that we've raised significant amount of funding, is to identify technology solutions that are best in class on a specific sustainability topic for it to acquire and bring in our platform and distribute to hundreds of thousands of businesses. So if you have one of those solutions, you should talk to us.
And really the good news is that the finance community is really now organized to focus on those ESG or sustainability related opportunities. Huh? They all have all the big firm now, even the venture firm have their impact fund. So there is a lot of money to invest.
Very good. Probably, so we see the questions coming in our chat box, and it's probably the right time to get to them. There seems to be a question from several people, among others, Alexi and Moritz, around methodology, and it's saying, are your ratings based on company declarations only, or do you audit them also? How do you make sure that the fact that companies who pay you and that are therefore rated by you do not result in a conflict of interest? And I know you've talked about that topic quite often. Yeah.
No, it's a very good point, and it's a point that have been raised several occasions indeed. For the payment aspect, I mean, companies pay us very few dollars in a way, couple of hundreds, per year as a subscription. So influencing the scoring just to potentially please someone compared to the overall revenue of the company and the risk that it would pose, and of course it would be completely against our values, but it would make no sense in a way. If they were paying us a lot of money, that would probably pose a different risk, but this is not the case. So we've been solving a bit, this conflict in this way. And of course, we keep a very clear separation between the analyst operation within EcoVadis from the commercial aspect of EcoVadis, and that's very, very separated here. Yeah.
Maybe along those lines.
Sorry.
Do you mind if I tag on? So you've said a couple of times already, we do not want to be the lab doing the test and the prescriber. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
So you don't want to get into consulting.
No.
That's also dealing with the conflict of interest a little bit. Do you mind saying a couple of words about that?
No, it's first because it will create a conflict of interest, and second because we will not be good at doing this. You cannot be. It's difficult to be great at doing SaaS software and data and consulting, and so we. When conflict of interest was not even a topic at the beginning of EcoVadis, I remember, and with the temptation to start to get revenue through consulting because the revenue was low. I remember a discussion with Frédéric where he said, no, we are,
That's the focus we were talking about earlier.
Yes, we'll stick to our core competency, which is developing technology and data and methodology, and it's therefore opening the door to partnership. So we have, plenty of local training partners, small boutiques in a local geography that are, helping providing training to rated companies. We have global partnership with, I see that the event is sponsored by Accenture. We're working on the global partnership with Accenture to, embed our data in their various, consulting streams. So much better being focused both for, avoiding conflict of interest, avoiding, not working on your competencies, and opening the door to more partnerships.
Thank you.
And of course, the usage of resources. As you can imagine, I mean, today we have like 100,000 customers. We should have million, or we will have million. And we have to go throughout this, and it's accelerating, and therefore we cannot invest in all fronts. I mean, we have to really stay laser focused on what we do.
Thank you.
I think there's one question that you're going to like a lot. One of our participants is asking, for help in positioning EcoVadis as a business partner to their board. So what are the 3 key pointers that you would give them in pitching EcoVadis as a partner for their business to their board?
So, yeah, thank you, Harriet.
Yes, you can borrow Pierre-François. Harriet is going to be really good at helping you on this.
No, I will say number one, this is becoming mandatory. You can share with them the map, or we can send you the map of all, all the pending regulations, and so you will be forced to do it in some shape or form. number two, it's the sustainability journey. It takes time. If you're looking at topics like decarbonization of supply chain, which we're working on, you have a time element. It's and so starting soon or starting now, when you look at 2030, it seems to be like a long time, but actually you have lots of inertia in the way all suppliers are doing their own programs, they're able to ramp up capabilities. So you should start now. And third, working on improving sustainability in your supply chain, working on improving sustainability, decarbonizing your own supply chain, it will probably open the door or give you ideas for creating new services or new offering. I think ultimately every company should be able to have their own portfolio of sustainable services, sustainable products, because we are facing the biggest business opportunity of all times, in terms of the tens of trillions of dollars will need to be invested in energy transition. So your company probably should be part of that.
Thank you. Question from Anne regarding net zero and regenerative models. It reads, one of our issues we are collectively facing is not only to reach the net zero, but also to go beyond, switching from a volume extractive model to a regenerative contributions model. What are your thoughts around this?
So we agree. We need it's not only about reducing. It's about positive business models. When we look at the role of EcoVadis, when we try to define what is our impact model, we define it as improvement at scale, being able to combine improvements, incremental improvements of companies on a massive scale. Like last year, I think we helped 23,000 businesses starting to report on carbon. So when it comes to really transformative models like the one Anne was describing, it's more something that can be done by NGOs, consultants. It's more low scale. So we are fully convinced that this needs to be part of the solution. But for this to happen, you need to have maturity, and you need to have thousands of businesses being able to be good at the basics. So we don't have yet a solution for that. We are helping all the companies in the world being prepared to tackle this in a couple of years.
So one question, one combined question that I think we can pose here is, one participant is asking about how do you align with global standards or ISSB in your methodology. Another one is asking, how do we start this process as a small supplier? Is there a vetting process before they even come in? So I think these are questions related to methodology to some extent. I think one way to look into this is how does your methodology work for small suppliers when they come in, and how is it going to align with the standards that are coming up?
No, so on the standards, we are monitoring and we are tracking in our platform, I think 452 different, sustainability standards, either regional or industry specific and so on. And one of the things we've done with the methodology is being able to convert all these standards into comparable rating and scoring, so that for the purchasing manager at L'Oreal, he doesn't need to be an expert in standards. He can just look at a single score. And what does it mean for a small supplier? So a small supplier or small business registering on the EcoVadis platform, they don't need to be an expert at sustainability as well. Based on their operations, based on their industry, based on their country, based on their size, we will create a specific list of 15 questions probably, which are relevant. So we've done the research in the background, and we will ask them to answer those 15 questions and, more importantly, give us evidence of what they claim, which is the most challenging piece. So we are trying to make it as easy as possible for small businesses, to shield them from all the complexity of those standards. Still not that easy, of course, because you need to, prove that you're doing things, and you start usually from a low score, and it's improving year after year. But that's the approach.
And they will find every information needed to understand the methodology, which is fully transparent on the website, obviously. They will have a lot of content, like e-learnings content available as well. And so I'm sure many information will be helpful for them if they grow. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. It looks like two. There's plenty of questions, but there is a question that comes with a tagline says tricky. So here's a tricky question. What is your view on the polarization around ESG in the US? And I would probably add, how relevant is this polarization to EcoVadis? Okay, so rather than your view only. So what's the relevance to
it's a very important question. I'm just back from 10 days in the US, where my objective was really to find an answer to this question.
And he didn't. No.
No, I did partially. It will be a long answer, but what I can say, what I understood after talking to so many experts, so many corporates, and so on. So indeed, incredible level of politicization. You have red states, blue states. You have anti-ESG policies, and you have anti-ESG policies. It's becoming a bit crazy. When it comes to what corporates are doing, what I understand is this is not changing the programs really of large corporates or even mid-sized US companies. They're just talking in a different way about it. You had a lot of greenwashing and very excessive statements also in the past. So now companies are being very careful about the words they use. For example, they will still work on decarbonization of their supply chain, but they will not call it climate action. They will call this carbon removal and energy efficiency. So we think this is an important topic. This is relevant because this politicization, can really, slow down things. At the time, we have no time to slow down. But I'm confident that despite the noise, despite the news, corporates are not really lowering their ambitions because their customers are asking them to do so, their employees are asking them to do so, and for all the MBAs on the call, you have a big role to play, because what I hear from customers is the big driver is young candidates or graduates who are asking them, why should I join McKinsey rather than BCG? What are you doing better on sustainability? Why should I join Unilever rather than Nestle? So you're playing a role as well.
Very good. Maybe we need to go to the last point because it's really pushing time here. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Wow, 5 years. Big impact, big customer base, a lot of solution as we are transferring towards, enhancing our offering to cover more subject that helps accelerating this incredible transition that need to take place. And probably being recognized at a global level as the standard for sustainability assessment and main contributor to improving the overall sustainability performance of companies. And one of the objectives we often talk internally is to become a gigacorn. With Pierre, maybe you can share the definition of
other companies who are helping get 1 gigaton of carbon out of the atmosphere, and No, my hope or my dream for it's not 5 years, it's 7 years. I was mentioning at this about this UN meeting in New York last week for the Sustainable Development Goals. So my hope is that in 2030, we will be back at this UN meeting. And then instead of the bleak picture that was painted last week, the constituents would say, we've been able to turn the corner on decarbonization. Things started to happen in 2026, 2027, 2028, which were unexpected. And well, we're not quite there, but we see the light at the end of the tunnel. And one of the drivers for change was the massive mobilization in global value chains, where millions of companies started to cooperate. And if we can be a small part of this, if our data can help ignite some of this change. I'll be happy, but I'll be most importantly happy if we can really solve the problem, which is a long way to go.
Fantastic.
Well, we hope to meet you in 5 years to check on these commitments. Thank you very much, both. This was very valuable information for us and for our participants. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you. So it's been an incredible journey for you guys. And so we're learning a lot from you. And you're inspiring to the alumni community. So thanks for that. And we wish you the best of luck, of course.
Thanks, Karel. Thanks, Atalay. Thank you,
All right.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Yes, congratulations.